Namaste, everyone. Greetings. I wanted to share this video because I've been inspired by quite a few people, as a matter of fact, in my life. My cousin once told me that I should have my own talk show, and this is not quite a talk show at all. It's just a short video, and I just want to share some messages. I'd like to empower people. I'm not concerned about having followers. I really want to create leaders. That's my intention, is creating leaders versus followers. And I know YouTube kind of almost encourages having followers. Of course, you have to have followers to be up on the Google rankings, and I'm not concerned with that either. I really just want to put this out into the multiverse and just let the universe handle the details, as they say, so to speak. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for listening. I hope the lighting is good. I don't actually have a TVD production studio here, but this is what I have for now. What you see is what you get. And yeah, a couple of things that I feel really inspired to share is things that have changed my life. And I would say definitely one, a lot of you have probably read this book, the first in Neale Donald Walsch's books with Conversation with God. And this first book, I think, is probably one of the most important besides Communion with God, which came out about, maybe 10 years after he wrote this book. And the reason I say this is most important is because one of the most important books is because most of the other books are based on this first book here. And what I loved about it, Neale asked one of the questions he asked was, how do we undo the teachings? And the answer that came to him was that to read the book and read it over and over again until you can actually quote it to others. So I took that, you could say, to heart, and I took it very seriously because I was looking for a way to change my life. I was kind of, as you could say, having a dark night of the ego or dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it, could be the same. And so I decided to read the book 12 times, and I did. It took a few years, but I did read it 12 times, cover to cover. And I've actually highlighted it, underlined it. I listened to it on tape. I've listened to it on YouTube. I really wanted it to sink in. And as most of you know, repetition is the answer to anything that we really want to learn. And since our programming is so deep, and a lot of you are beginning to understand this, already do know it. You watch like people like Joe Dispenza, and all the other great teachers out there, Abraham, there's so many of them, the list goes on and on. Many of them will say that repetition is the key. Napoleon Hill said it, I think, repetition is the mother of all learning. Oh no, that was Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar, a former car salesperson, said repetition is the mother of all learning. And that's one thing that I always remember too, because I was once in sales and marketing field for a long time. And I came from the corporate world in Seattle, and I worked for Nordstrom, the Nordstrom family in downtown Seattle at their very first store. I worked for a biotechnology company that made cancer drugs for the FDA, and I worked for, uh, who else was it? I'm forgetting now. So it was Nordstrom, yeah, the Immunex Corporation, which is biotech, and of course Microsoft. I forgot about Microsoft, and most of you know about Bill Gates and Microsoft, and the rest is history, right? So after I left the corporate world, I kind of was a little bit lost. You could say I pretty much had my midlife crisis when I was about 30 years old, and that was 33 years ago. When I first had my midlife crisis was 33 years ago. I was around 30 years old, and I wanted to get it over as quick as possible. That's what I like to say, kind of as a joke, because most people don't have midlife crisis until like they're in their 50s or 60s. I was in my 30s, so it started for me really early, which I'm really grateful for, because now I had plenty of time to work through it. And now 33 years later, I have made huge changes in my life. I've been self-employed for 23 years. I've been out of the corporate world for like 25 years. And so all of these things that came into my life, like Conversation with God, Living with Joy by Sanaya Roman, one of my favorite teachers, of all time. Living with Joy and Sanea Roman is another classic book. So these books have made huge differences in my life. And what I want to do is just offer some of these, teachings that a lot of you may already know, some of you may not. So that's what I want to do. That's my intention. So I'd like to make a quote here from the first book in Conversation with God. And I will say, this is one of my first videos that I've done in probably about 5 years. So I had just recently parted from one of my beloveds, and that was about 5 years ago. And she crossed over to the other side about 3 years ago. And so that was a huge turning point in my life, as I've had many. But this is one quote I'd really like to make, since I'm really, I love the environment, I love nature, and I could see how us as humans, and myself for a long time, before I started to become more conscious and recycle and reuse and buy whole foods and cook for myself, is how much garbage and things we throw into the environment. So this is something that came up for me today, and I did what I call a divination. So most of you may know a divination is where you just open the book to any page and you ask for a message, or you can actually ask for the message, which I like to do. Ask for the message in advance. What do I need to know now? Take the book, open it to any page, and then boom, a lot of you probably have done this, but this is a great way to get messages, and I love this. So this came up for me, and something I want to I want to share with all of you concerning the environment. This is Conversation with God. First book, page 106, third paragraph. Thoughts put into action. If enough people everywhere believe something must be done to help the environment, you will save the earth. But you must work fast. So much damage has already been done for so long. This will take a major attitudinal shift, quote unquote. And I also like to say my disclaimer. Quotations from Conversation with God made here with permission from the author. I have permission from the author to make these quotations, and I've incorporated his teachings into my own life and to a lot of the work that I do, and it has helped me tremendously. So I highly encourage anyone who hasn't read the book to read it, or if you have, read it again, because the repetition is really amazingly important and really kind of magical, because I realized usually after every read that I've done with the book, it felt like the first time. And I didn't know why in the beginning, but now I understand, is because I was different every time I reread the book. I was a different person. And so that's what made all the difference, because it felt like really it was the first time, even though now, like I've said earlier, I've read it 12 times. So that's my message for today. I wanted to keep it really short and sweet. I know everybody is multitasking and have many things to do, take care of families, kids, parents, jobs, and all the worldly responsibilities we have today. But thank you so much for listening. Many blessings. Namaste.